Static buzz crackles in the night. James and Dan on the air alive. Hump Day warriors, we thrive. Raise a glass, feel the sound. Happy hour shakes the ground. Waves of freedom break the air. Rocking parks like we just don't care. Antennas twist, catch the sky. Ham radio, calling out the brave. Tonight we rise, tonight we rave. Raise a glass, feel the sound. Happy hour shakes the ground. Waves of freedom break the air. Rocking parks like we just don't care. Feel the pulse, it's a living fire. Live stream, raw hearts conspire. Through the static, we break the chains. James and Dan, tearing through the veins. Raise a glass, feel the sound. Happy hour shakes the ground. Waves of freedom break the air. Rocking parks like we just don't care.
What is up, Ham Radio? Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zulu November, the Ham Radio Adventure Guy. Thanks for stopping by, your one stop for everything Adventure Radio. It is Hump Day. It means it's time for the Hump Day Happy Hour. We got a great stream planned tonight. I'm super excited about it. I've been talking about it all day because it's something that I'm wanting to move myself into. But I really look forward to it. But before we get started, we're going to thank the Patreons because they are absolutely awesome people, including our newest Patreon, Chris, and our return Patreon, Austin. Welcome back, Austin, and welcome, Chris. Good to have you guys aboard with the Patreons. And just so you guys know, I have not drawn the names for the Christmas Club, but I will probably do that tomorrow. So if you want in, let me know. Also, shout out to the YouTube members. You guys are awesome as well. They are green in chat or blue if they're a moderator. And the ever-changing board with no changes. Thank you guys, each and every one. You guys are awesome. Dan, what's going on, buddy?
It is episode 216 of this Hump Day Happy Hour. Happy Wednesday, Hump Day to everybody. I really have no idea who was really first or second in the chat. We talked about that last week, so I'm just going to go with what's on the screen because YouTube likes to mysteriously get rid of people's comments. But Alpha Delta 2, Charlie Delta, Toby, what is going on? Bill Duckett, that's our buddy Daryl, Kilo Oscar 4, Sierra X-Ray Hotel, what's going on? Kilo Oscar 4, Golf Bravo Bravo, Mo, what's happening? Kent Kilo 9, Alpha Echo Echo, Kenny, KC5 MJ Echo, what's up, buddy? Zach is here, Kilo 4, Zulu, Sierra Romeo. He's getting ready for CQ Worldwide SSB this weekend. Boy, it's gonna be a fun time on the bands, that's for sure. The 59A from Hammertown, Victor Echo 3, Lima Bravo, India. What's going on, Larry? Good to see you. Reed ABAS, Mike 88 KB, Kilo Echo 4 Eastern Standard Time, and his better half for sure, Kilo 4 Alpha. Alpha, what is going on? Martini is here testing your speakers on StreamYard, and it sounds like they're working. Whiskey Delta 4, Juliet, Mike, Gene McPhee from Killeen, Texas. That's N3X US. Good to see you. Chris K2PTC, Long Island representing. That's for sure. Dad is here. Kilo Delta 9 Uniform Victor. Kilo. What's going on? Scott N2TKT. Alpha Echo 4 X-Ray Oscar. Georgia Parks and Propagation.
Recreation.
That's our buddy Ron Chris. Go check him out. Dennis Alpha Delta 9 and Whiskey Mike. What's up, buddy? Brent November 4 Bravo Delta Whiskey. In for a short time. He's driving. Drive safe, my buddy. Whiskey 1 Whiskey Charlie, who was probably first in the chat before YouTube destroyed your comments. Good to see you, Brian. Kelly Rose, KI4 JAV. What is up? Chris Whiskey 0. Charlie Golf Charlie. 5'9" from East Tennessee. Good to see you. Liz and fam is here. That's Romeo 8 Echo Whiskey 8. Good to see you. And that rounds out the chat for this beautiful Hump Day Wednesday episode 216. We are here with Bob, November 1 Mike Hotel Victor. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. James, how has your week been so far?
Very tiring, dude. My legs feel like they are going to fall off my body. I have done back-to-back days of soda. So I have put in my hiking quota for the year in the last 2 days. And that is 3 sodas this month, and I've got another one scheduled for Saturday. So yeah.
Has your ACL or lack thereof said enough? Give me a break.
Well, I'll tell you. So here's the thing: where the muscles around my ACL always overcompensate. My quad is one of those big muscles that really overcompensates. And by the time we got almost down today, my right quad was just begging me to pass out. Like it was just throbbing. So it's calmed down since then because it was just overworked, and it wasn't a bad hike or nothing. The elevation change was steady. You know, it was really ruddy in places, and you would have to do an extra really big step up, and that was working the quads really good. So.
Did it feel better or worse or the same of let's just say a theoretical foot race with a young child?
Well, it definitely didn't feel that bad because it didn't give up. The hike we did about a week ago when we hiked in to get that POTA park that I needed.
Yeah,
that one reminded me a lot of the foot race. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. But enough about soda. We're here to talk about my other passion, other than POTA and soda, and that is satellites. I've been doing a lot of it. Matter of fact, I got a new grid to me roving again yesterday. So I have become the satellite rover. That's going to be my thing in satellites, I think, because I really like going and getting the new grids. So it's really cool. But Bob here is one of my top hunters. If you watch my stats video, you'll see his name probably every time because he's always seems to be getting me in the satellites. So he works a lot of FM birds, but he also does linear birds, which is something that I want to learn way more about. And hopefully we're going to talk about transitioning from FMs to linears. But before we get started, Bob, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into ham radio first.
Oh, so I've been ham for about 30 years now. Satellites are like the last great venture that I've done in ham radio. Most of the time I was doing CW or I'm doing single sideband. Um, dabbling with the D Star and the other digital modes. But satellites are new to me. I just started working those things not that long ago. In fact, I started doing them just before field day so we could get some satellite points for our field day event with the club. So I decided to go all in on this with getting a satellite base station set up here in the shack. So Um, that in order to do the linear birds, you need to have an all mode radio. So I do have one here in the shack that I use. I used an old FT 847, the old Earth station. If anybody remembers those radios back then, I had one a long time ago. It's a great radio. It doubles as a backup for HF for the 101 D radio that I have here. But it allows me to do the linear stuff too. So um, most of my time when I first got my license, I was still active duty Navy. So I was I was down in Norfolk, Virginia, stationed on ship down there. And when I went and got my license, it was back in the day. We still had to do code back then. That was in the 90s, or early 90s. So I put my home of record down, which was up in Connecticut, my mother's address, which hence that's why they got the one call sign. And at the time, I was living in Virginia, and down there they were giving by 2x3s out like there was no tomorrow, and I didn't like the 2x3 calls. I'd rather have the 1x3 myself. So that's how I got the one call sign. But I was most of the time I was down in Virginia in the 90s. Had a station set up down there. If you go on my QRZ page, there's a picture of it in there somewhere amongst all the stuff that I put up there. But that's when I got into ham radio, and I worked it on the ship. We had our own independent radio station on the ship from Mars that the captain allowed us to put in there, and so we had an ICOM 735 and an amplifier and a tuner and about 250 feet of coax run all the way up to where I think we had a 6 BTV antenna. I believe it was up on the '04 level behind the bridge, so it was way up there. 250 foot run of coax, so we had some loss there, but that we had the amplifier. It was still a big metal thing floating in top of salt water, and we had a good ground plane. So in 1992 was the deployment, and we did 850 phone patches on that deployment for the crew. So back then, it's all we could do. Nowadays, the kids have good because they can actually they have internet capability and email capability on the ship. So the Navy Mars has kind of gone by the wayside. It's really non-existent anymore. But anyway, that's pretty much how I got into it.
Okay. So when you first got into satellites, did you start with the FM birds first, like everybody, or?
I started with I went first of all. I went and procured an earth station because I knew I wanted to get that radio back. So I found one on the internet. It was in really, really prime shape. The guy was selling it and had him shipped to me. I went to qth.com and found it up there in the boards. And I bought it for I think 720 bucks. I think is what it cost me. It's a great radio. Works perfectly. Then I went and got what I did was I got a set of egg beater antennas because I wanted to set it out there for field day, and we had them set out there for field day with the egg beater antennas, and that's what I was using first. We did make one contact on the satellites using the egg beaters, uh, and I think that was I believe it's on one of the linear birds. So, um, but I wanted to shift directions, so I sold the egg beaters and went to the other direction. I bought the other equipment I needed. The Azel rotor I got on QTH, is used one. So it was good, and then bought a couple of beam antennas and run the cables and all the rest of that good stuff. So that's how we got it set up. There's some pictures of that on my page on the QRZ. But that's what I started to do. So I was working linear and FM. I was trying to get either one for field day. I didn't really care which, because field day it's worth 100 points if you get a satellite contact for the club. You only need one.
Right.
That's 100 sideband contacts or 50 CW QSOs, just that one contact alone. So we needed to get something like that going. So that's what I did, and then I just followed through after that and went with setting it all up here at the house. So
Okay. So you say you like the beams a lot better than the egg beaters?
yes,
I've heard people go back and forth with this discussion. I've looked at the egg beaters, which are not cheap, by the way,
no, nope.
and so what didn't you like about those?
Well, so the egg beaters, they're good for really high passes. They're not good for low angle passes. So if you've got a pass that's happening around 35 degrees or so for an elevation, you're not going to have a good pass on an egg beater. Now, if you got one that's just passing pretty much overhead and you got a good pass that way, the egg beaters are fine, but they're not really that great for that type of operation with the low passes. And I wanted to go ahead with the azimuth elevation rotors and the controllers, so I control it through software on the computer, so that the bird, the antenna is always aiming at the bird, and of course the software application is correcting for Doppler shift too. So that does it all, which is great. And once you line it up, and you can talk on those birds all day long, and it's just going to keep on following the bird. So the big difference is now with the FM birds, as you're aware with the FM birds, it's a single uplink and a single downlink. Now, the thing with the birds, any bird, doesn't matter if it's linear or it's FM, we have the Doppler shift you have to take care of and consider and take care of those. As the bird moves across the sky, you got to kind of change that up on the receiver, especially on the 440 side. The 2 meter side, it's not that critical, but on the 440 side it is. So if it's a downlink on 440, you got to keep on changing around a little bit to keep the bird aligned up with you
Right.
on the FM side.
So I do have
So
a question about that with the linear
yep,
side, but just so those of you who don't hunt satellite know, so the FM birds are kind of like a repeater. So if me and Dan are both trying to get in a repeater at the same time, it's only going to take one of our signals, and the other person's just not going to go through. You've all heard that happen on repeaters, and that's how that works on FM. And if I put up unedited videos, you'd see me a lot of times just shaking my head in anger at people that's done worked 7 people, and they're still trying to work the one guy. Uh, and it's frustrating. But with the linear birds, it's kind of like HF. You've got a bandwidth, and you can go anywhere on that bandwidth, and you can either call CQ or you can watch a waterfalls and scroll to people that's calling and stuff. And it's more laid back. So that people actually will. With an FM bird, you're pretty much November 1 Mike Hotel Victor, Kilo Echo 8 Papa Zoo November, EM 87 roaming, and he'll come back to me and we'll say good contact knit. Whereas on linear, sometimes you'll hear people actually talking a little bit. So it's a little bit of difference. But on the Doppler shift, is it on the linear? Is it only on the 440 side that you got to move it? You don't got to worry about the 2 meter side.
yeah, the 2 meter. I mean, there is linear shift. There is a Doppler shift on 2 meters, but it's not as critical as the 440. The 440 really moves around, so you kind of have to deal with that. And there's a way of dealing with that if you're working with a handheld on a satellite. You can set it up the receiver on the downlink. You can set it up with 5 different passes. So acquisition of signal would be this frequency, and then a quarter of the way through it, you set up for the next frequency up, and then midway you set it for the next frequency, and so on and so forth. So you can set 5 of them up, and as the bird goes across the sky, you can just tune the receiver and go to the next memory channel, and it helps you with the Doppler shift. So it's a little tricky, but it's easy. It's easy once you get into it. But if you're doing it from the like the base station here and the Earth station, the software is taking care of all that. So I have to do a quick when you do it with software, you have to do a quick alignment with the software. It's pretty easy to do, and then you don't have to do it in any more alignment. As long as that bird's still tracking, you can reach that bird every time. So once you do that, you're pretty much set. But the software takes care of all of that. And software I use SAT PC32, which is the one that's put out there by AMSAT. There are other if you have Ham Radio Deluxe, Ham Radio Deluxe will always also do it. But I've never had very much luck getting Ham Radio Deluxe to talk to my gear where so it track the satellite. But SAT PC32 does it. It does it really
Now
well.
I heard that SAT PC32 doesn't have some of the newer satellites on it though.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a way to fix that because you can add the satellites into it. There's it's Kepler data that that you get from the various sources. And you can go on SatNogs and get the Kepler data from there for each of the birds, and take those the 2 lines of Kepler data, TL lines of data, and you can enter that into the Kepler file under PC Sat 32. So you can just add just shift the line down, add the bird in there, the name of the bird, and then you put the 2 lines of data, line 1 and line 2, into the file. You save it, and then you got to go into SAT PC 32 and the Doppler shift files, and make sure you get the Doppler shift lines in there too, so it knows where the bird's at. And then you've got to update that stuff all the time too. By the way, um, the Kepler data changes, as time progresses. So I usually change my Kepler data every 3 or 4 days. I'll update my Kepler files to make sure that I've got the right data, and the software knows where the bird's at. Otherwise, it might be off, and you might not be actually aiming at the bird when you're trying to talk to it. So there is that. So
Is that a
that's
manual? So you updating that data, is that a manual process or is it
I
automated somehow?
You can do it. You can do it automated. They do have some automated files, depending on which one you're using, because there's several different places you can get that information from. It's all in SAT PC32. You can go in there and update the Kepler data. Just tell it to download the latest Kepler data. It will. But there's certain birds I like to track. There's only like 6 birds I like to track. So I make sure I just have the Kepler data for those six birds. So I'll go into SatNog and I'll pull the Kepler data out, and I'll go in there, update the files myself because I know how to do it. But you can't do it right through PC Sat 32. Hit the update the Kepler files, and it will download the right file that you want and update the files for you. So there is that.
That's good, because a manual update process would sound like a pain in the rear.
It is if you're doing a lot of them, but I only
Yeah.
do 5 or 6 birds, so I don't really, I just all those birds are at the very top of my Kepler file, so I just go in there and copy paste, just to cut and paste with me, and it takes me all of about 10 minutes to do that, and I'm done.
See, see, I don't have this problem because I don't have the Dan Satellite Easy button. See, when Dan hunts, he has the POTA Easy button that he hits, and it does everything for him. So
Yeah.
he's got software tracking and doing his Doppler shift. I'm actually standing outside in either the hot or the cold or whatever, and doing it. It's a little bit different for sure. I had
Right.
I know you know him. Oh my goodness, I forgot his John from up there in Connecticut or Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Into
he's in Mystic, Connecticut, and N2 FYA.
yeah,
John
that's
and
him.
John and I had a sit down QSO when I was up in Connecticut. Went up there to visit his family, and him and I and one other ham had a sit down QSO up there. We had some breakfast and sat down there and talked about some birds and satellites and amateur radio in general, and had a really good time doing that. John's a really great guy, and I always like to say hello to him when I hear him on the birds.
Yeah, he was doing a really late pass one night when I was doing one, and he worked me, and he said, "How's things in West Virginia tonight?" And I said, "Oh, pretty good. I'm just out here trying to beat the rain to get a pass in." He said, "Oh, you're outside." He says, "I guess you're using a handheld." I said, "Handheld antenna, yeah."
Yeah. Yeah,
He said,
John's really great. They had, you see, you told me, you said, Ben, you should come up here again, because we have a big satellite event in October where a bunch of people, I guess, are getting together in Connecticut for some sort of satellite thing that they're doing, expo or whatever. But I can't go up there all the time. I only go up there once a year to go visit family. So, but
right.
it was fun. It was
So
fun meeting him.
is all of your satellite work done from the inside? You don't do any outside work at all?
Oh no, I do outside work. I do have an arrow antenna sitting over there in the corner, and a pack with I have 2 radios in there. I use my ID52 or my ID51 rather, for the uplet side transmitting, and I use my D75 for the downlink side, because the D75 has a capability of recording, so it records the pass, and I don't have to write down anything. And that way, once the pass is over with, I just play the recording back, and then and go through there and write down the information in the log from the recording. which is why I use a 75 on the downlink side. I use two
Yeah.
of them that way. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna suggest this to anybody that does satellites. I wouldn't try to be logging them while you're there because you're going to miss most of your pass. You got to do some kind of recording. I actually video all my satellite passes because I'm a YouTuber, and if it's a good pass, I'll put a YouTube video out. But even if I don't have time to set up and do a YouTube, I'm going to use either a voice recorder on my phone or a voice recorder hanging around my neck or something, because it's how I have to go back and it for those people who's been in my pileups and you think I'm really good with call signs. I am when I'm the one calling for them, but when there's 14 other people calling for people too, it gets confusing. So you have to go back and be like, and see who you work sometimes.
You probably get practice if you want to activate on 7200 or something.
Well, that's the ISS. That is the ISS.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy town. I mean, I had some really great ISS passes in the morning where really good, dedicated, and really good frequency disciplined satellite operators are up there. And I've made as much as 8 or 9 contacts on the ISS in the morning sometime. But we all take turns talking to each other. There might be 8 or 9 hams up there, but we all want to take, again, taking turns is a big thing. You can't just get on the FM bird and jam out a call sign in the grid square. You got to listen. You got to listen to what's going on. So that's really important. And yeah, so if you don't have a radio that records, you can buy one of these devices like this. I've got a little splitter on here that I can plug in there, so it records on the one side, and uh, you can put the headphones in the other side or what have you. So yeah, one of these little devices is cheap. They're on Amazon. Amazon's got a ton of them, so you get them really cheap. So you can do that too if you don't have a handheld that does a recording. So
Check out y'all check out this. All right, Eric KH6WI, your new nickname is Satellite Monkey, by the way, because he has one hand on the antenna with his push to talk. The other hand is live logging, has a computer controlling the radio. You need 8 hands, man. How do you do this?
Like, I don't know how he does it either, because I do everything I possibly can to make less stuff in my hands during a pass. Like I've got I keep changing my setup. I know I did a setup video a couple of weeks ago for Satellite Saturday. That setup is, well, it's still my setup if I'm using the elk, but it's obsolete if I'm using the arrow, because I've added more to it for the arrow. And then I've got a tripod that's holding the phone. I don't hold the phone up to show me where. I just look down at my tripod like this and watch it, because it's simpler for me, because it's one less hand that I got to have.
Absolutely.
So
I do the same thing. I have a tripod that my phone is, got a little clip on it, and put the phone there so I can look at it to see what's going on with the satellite.
Yeah, that's what mine is. I got a clip-on mount for it, so it works really good. Okay, so do you do? I know we said you did do some FM outside. Do you do any linear outside?
Linear. Okay, so if you're doing linear outside in the field, it's a little bit different, because first of all, anytime you do a linear bird, you have to have single sideband or CW in an all mode configuration for a transceiver. So that's where it gets a little tough. To answer the question for Chris on the passes are about 10 minutes, give or take, depending on the bird. Some birds have a smaller footprint than others. Other ones have a bigger footprint. The farther away from the Earth, the bigger the footprint they're going to have. But the passes in general are about 10 minutes to answer that question. And to go back to the question.
But if you are in the mountains, chances are you're going to get about 6 of those 12 minutes.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and even here, my station here at the house, I've got some trees in the backyard here, in the back part of my lot, and I got my house pretty close to where the antenna is. So the antenna is only up about 18 feet right now. I want to try to raise it up another 5 feet. just to kind of get a little bit more clearance over the house so I can pick up birds on the lower pass.
Right.
So my passes, I'm looking usually around 20 degrees, and I'll start picking those up if they're coming from the south. I got to wait for them to pass, to 20 degrees and start going either east or west of me to start really hitting them. So yeah,
Uh,
so that does narrow the time down for sure.
So,
Um,
so in West Virginia, if it's coming south or north, I was good at about 20 degrees. If
yeah,
it was coming from the east or west, I'd have to wait till about 45 degrees.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
that it just depends on where it's going. But now the other day I was roving and I was down in EM 75 and I was over an overlook. And I normally wouldn't even start till even holding the antenna up till 20 degrees. I said I'm
Yeah.
going to try this early. I hit it on 5 degrees and I started hearing people and I was like, okay, I like this up on the mountain stuff.
Yeah, I've gone out to large clear area fields and worked and gotten those really low passes, hits before it really started getting the air. So it's just a matter of timing where you're at and so on and so forth, as to how long that pass actually is. But generally the footprint is visible to you for about 10 minutes, general rule of thumb. Um, Now, as far as working the linear birds in the field, that's going to get a little bit more difficult because you have to have a single sideband or CW transceiver to do that. And if you're going to do it, using an arrow antenna and handheld and, with your pouch on and your radios inside the pouch and all the stuff, it gets a little difficult. So the probably the only way to do that, and I've seen it done before. There were some videos from a fellow over at DX Engineering. He's put some videos out there doing that. He uses FT817s, a pair of them, and those BNC connectors right at the top, right to your arrow. One on the 220, one on the 440, one on the 2 meters, and then of course you can tweak on the downlink side to see who's in there listening for the contacts. So it's a little bit more difficult when you're trying to work the linear birds like that, but it can be done.
This is my plan because, like I said it at the beginning of the stream, I've really started to enjoy satellite roving where I'm going. Because, I mean, think about it. I go everywhere to do POTA. Why would I not be a satellite rover? So my
Right.
plan is I do have an 818. I have one.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking about using the 818 for transmit and using my FTX1 for the receive because it has a waterfalls that I
Oh yeah.
can. I've just got to find the right bag for it. It is my problem right at the moment. I can't find the right bag for that particular setup.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's a lot of gear to deal
but
with.
I mean, I could also, until I find that bag, I could bring out my little fold out table and set the stuff out on the table and just sit there. I mean, if you look at any of the videos at the beginning of my FM start, I was always setting at the table with everything setting before I got my chest rig started. So
Right.
I may start that way as well.
Yep. Yep. And there's you could put the antenna on a tripod and maybe point it to where the mid pass is or whatever, and just wait for the mid pass to come that way, so you wouldn't have to hold the antenna. There's a bunch of different options with that. There's actually folks that go out there and they'll buy motorized camera dealies where you just put it on top of the tripod and use the motorized camera thing to point the antenna where you want it to go. That's going to get expensive if you keep doing that type of stuff. It's,
Well,
the, the more you
I
get into
do
this, it gets
I do
expensive.
actually have a portable uh, rotator for satellites.
Hmm.
I've yet to actually get it squared away working correctly yet, but
Yeah,
um, it's just been little issues, and if I can get that done, that'll help as well. So
yeah, yeah. Yep, that's for sure. Well, like I said, most of the work that I do when I go out in the field, I'm only working the FM birds. I just do that FM stuff out there. And again, SO50 is very popular. It is very one of the most reliable FM birds we got out there.
absolutely.
Um, and then International Space Station is out there too. That now folks get confused about that. When you talk to that FM repeater on that bird, you're talking to a repeater. You're not talking to the astronauts. They're not listening to it. So don't keep trying to talk to the astronauts on the FM repeater. They have their own separate uplinks and downlinks for that type of stuff. You've got to check the ARISS webpage out to get all the details there. But yeah, that's just simply a repeater up there, folks. So don't try to yell at the astronauts. They're not listening to you. The other thing about that is, they'll sometimes that has to get shut off when they're doing, when they're doing docking and things like that, or they're going outside and doing the spacewalk. They'll shut that stuff off. But SO50 is probably the most reliable of the birds up there for that.
Yeah, I
We do
definitely
have
agree
a
with that.
third. Yeah, we do have a third up there, SO124. It's also fairly reliable. That's an FM bird as well. So those are the three FM birds I usually track. It's 50, the ISS, and 124. And I've worked all of them. So
I have a love hate with the 124. The
yeah,
124 is either on or it's off for me. Like
it can be that way. It can be that way. It's not the reliable standard as the SO50. That's for darn sure. So yeah, I can see that.
I also kind of like the 125, the Hades. It
Hmm.
it
Yep.
seems pretty reliable.
Yep.
So
That's another one that you can get a hold of too. So there's a page called SatNogs, which is a database with all the satellite information on there. You can find out what transmitters are operational, what you're not, on which of the different birds. Also, AMSAT has a satellite status page on there. You can see what the status is on the different birds, what's going on. I always post up there when I hear a bird or I talk to a bird to give a status on whether I could hear it or I couldn't hear it. So that's a good source of information to get into that piece of it. Yeah, as far as the linear stuff goes, it's a little bit difficult out in the field to do linear stuff. That's why I do it all here. But you can set your own ground station up, like I said. Um, if, I think with me, to set my ground station up was probably around about $2,500 after I got the radios and the rotators, Azell rotators, and the beams I wanted to put on there, and so on and so forth. And then I had to have an interface between the G5500 rotor control and the computer. That costs a little bit more money too. And then using SAT PC32, I paid for that version of it, so it's about $50 if you buy it. But by having the paid version, you get the full activity on the software. Um, so with me, that's one way to go. Probably the most expensive way to go, if you're looking at it that way, um, it would probably be well, probably the most expensive way is to go out and buy an IC 9700 and the SAT controller that I think a
you
CRX or CO
you
whatever.
know
You put that.
I looked at the price of those the other day, and I said that is absolutely insanely ridiculous to pay that much money for a 2 meter. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
like it's more than I've paid. It's more than I paid for my Optima. Way more.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a couple of grand right now for that.
Yeah, it's like $2,200 for a
Yeah.
2 meter.
Yep. Well, it's actually three bands. It's 2 meter 440 and what was the other one? 1.2 or whatever it was. But
Yeah,
who uses that band? I never.
it's it's kind of like I say it at about buying the $2,000 QRP radio. It's a little pushing it. Yeah, I I don't have no full duplex radios, but yeah, if I had a rotor and stuff like that outside, I could do the same thing he's doing because I do have multiple radios that will do. I could hook the 991A up here over on 2 meters, and I could hook the FTX one in the house on
Hmm.
440 and do the same exact thing. If I'm in the house and using rotor control, that's not going to be a problem for me
Yeah.
because I've got extra hands anyway.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, so you could get on the screen there 7100. Yeah, you can use a 7100 for sure. The only difference is with the 7100, of course, it's not a duplex. I don't believe that's full duplex on the receive side. So and you want to kind of hear yourself coming down on the birds. That's a good thing. So that's the great thing about the FT 840 847, the old Earth station. I love this radio. I used to have one a long time ago. When I moved from
You-
Connecticut, I wound up selling it.
I've yes, the 991A and the FTX1 together is more than a 9700, but I've had the 991A since the beginning of my POTA career.
Hmm.
So it's just sitting here anyway. And if I wanted to do it cheaper and just get two, I could do the 991A and the 818 and do the same thing.
Well,
And
there's another option to that too, and that's the IC 910 910 hotel. If you can find a 910 hotel on the used boards, you go that way too. That's a great radio too. It's just a 2 meter 440. I think there's a module. They have a module to put in it for the other upper band, but just the 2 meter 440 version is fine. I've seen them run anywhere from 700, from about $700 usually on the boards used. You can look on QTH.com and look on the classified boards, see if you can find one. That's a great radio to use. That's just all, could be used completely with satellites,
yep,
and it'll work with that. And it'll work with that sat tracker deal that they've made. Because that has software and stuff already built into it, so you can get away pretty cheap that way with a 910 hotel, and then you have to have the rotors and azimuth
yeah.
fells rotor and all that other junk. So, but yeah, you can get away cheap with that too.
So we got Whiskey One Pop Alpha in the chat. He says he does linear portable as well. So
Yeah,
I'm glad to see that there's people out there doing what my plans are, for sure. And if there is new satellite people to the stream here, yes, we are a big POTA channel and we do a lot of POTA stuff here, but I am really trying hard to build the satellite community up here, just like I have the POTA community. And you know, keep watching the streams. If you have ideas for satellite streams and stuff like that, send me a message. I do drop a Satellite Saturday video every Saturday, and I drop a lot of satellite shorts. So, spread the word to your friends that Ham Radio Adventure Guys definitely satellite friendly, and please join and subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're just joining us here, we're talking with Bob, November 1, Mike, Hotel Victor about satellites. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to them. We got about 20-ish minutes left to go. So drop your questions in the chat and we'll field them as they come up, and direct your questions either Bob or James, because I'm satellite dumb. I'm learning.
So, while now we mentioned, Parks on the Air, of course, Parks on the Air does not count land-based repeaters. You can't go through a land-based repeater. But guess what, folks? You can work the International Space Station or SO50 from the park, and it counts.
Absolutely.
I can tell you right now that Bob has POTA contacts through satellite with me.
Yep.
And I know several people that have POTA contact. Matter of fact, everybody who worked me on the 125 the other day in that new grid is in my POTA log.
James, were you the guy on the ISS that was calling CQ Parks on the air?
Oh yeah, that was me. I was literally up there. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because you don't, on an FM bird, you do not try to take up a whole pass.
Right.
You don't sit there and call CQ on the FM bird. I have heard people do it, but you try to work people in an orderly fashion and let other people work them, and then you try to get it. I got so aggravated one day. There was a guy, and Bob couldn't hear him, evidently. He tried to work Bob like 10 times. And every time I'd try to work anybody, I'd hear him. I can't remember his call sign right now, but I'd hear him say, November 1, Mike Hotel Victor. And he kept calling him. I was like, if this guy don't shut up, I'm going to kill him. I think at the end of that pass, Bob actually ended up getting him in the log even. But it gets real annoying. But on a linear bird where it's not all on the same frequency, people do call CQ. You could actually probably call CQ POTA on a linear bird, couldn't you?
Oh yeah. So with the linear birds is different because what you're talking about with linears, we have there's about a 20 kilohertz bandwidth for that bird. So and that's on the upside and the downside. So many people can be on there, and you could actually park on there and have a conversation with somebody. As you talked about John up there, N2FYA, John and I have had conversations on the bird before, just on the linear birds going past. So sideband. So you can do that. The other thing is with me, I love it because I'm also a big CW operator. So I work CW on the birds too. So I've got about 3 or 4 or 5 CW contacts that I log in. There's some birds that I'll do CW more on because the sideband is not as great on those birds, but I'll do the CW side and get some QSOs logged in on CW. So,
Well,
but
I,
yeah,
I, I can tell you point blank when I get in my setup for when I do the table setup, not so much their test rig, but when I do the table setup, I will definitely be doing some CW because I really look forward to that. So I look forward to getting you in my CW log on the satellite bird. That would be really cool for me.
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
CW over a bird sounds like a blast. It
yeah.
really does. Aaron asked,
It's
what's the best app to track satellites?
okay. So there's a few of them out there. Ham Radio Deluxe. If you own Ham Radio Deluxe, it has the satellite package in there. I've never got the bloody thing to work, but I think that software is pretty complicated anyway. It's complex for everything that it does. But the one I use is SAT PC32 from the AMSAT folks. That one is the one that works the best, for me to not only drive my rotors and my elevation and azimuth, but it also does the Doppler shift automatically. So um, it's not very hard to set up. It's pretty easy to use, much more so than anything else I've used. But SAT PC32 I think is probably the easiest to do and the easiest to set up and get
I don't
started with.
I don't have a lot of experience with them because I've only played with my rotor.
Yeah,
But I can get it to track birds. I've just never actually got things set up right in the field because I'm always in a rush or something.
yeah.
But I'm using one called Skyroof that seems to work really well. It's a newer one,
Hmm.
and I know it's got a lot of features that I do not have hooked up, but it even has you can use a web SDR feature on there, and I think that would be pretty cool if I could figure out how to use it. But we all know that Dan does my computer stuff, and I barely can type on a keyboard. but but now, if you're talking about an FM bird, I really like and the iPad people or the iPhone people will tell you a different one because there is a different one for the iPhone. But I really like ISS tracker for the FM birds.
Yeah.
Here's a good little awareness from Eric. Power on linear birds. A lot of ops are running too much power because linear birds have a power budget for the entire passband. So that 20
Yeah.
kc of bandwidth, they have an allotted power. And one person on one channel, I don't want to call them channel, but on one part of that passband can really ruin it for everybody else if they're using too much power.
Yeah. So the one thing that you want to stay, don't go over 15 watts. You don't need more than heck. You can go with 5 and 10 watts and talk to the bird. You don't need a whole lot of power. But if you're working on a radio, I got my radio set here, the 847. That's set to about 10 watts. So it's not putting out more than 10 watts. So and and especially when you talk about AO7. Oscar 7 is a very old bird. It only works when the sun is on it. So it's got to be in the sun, otherwise it doesn't work. So on that bird, I try to stay down to about 5 watts, man, because you don't want 3 to 5 watts is all that you need to do to work AO7. And I worked contacts on AO7. I did earlier one today. I worked, let's see, November Charlie Zero Juliet, and he was in Florida. And I worked on the AO7 pass. He's up there calling, throwing out his call sign in his grid square on AO7 when I was listening. And I was able to tune him in when it got to the right point in the sky, and I worked him. But you don't need, don't push more than 3 to 5 watts at that bird. It's old. It can't handle it, and the batteries are already dead on the bird. So it only, like I said, it only works in sunshine. So you're really tasking the bird if you're trying to talk to it with more than that.
So when you're working a bird and it goes silent, there's no static or nothing. You just hear like a little interference noise or something. Is that somebody pushing too much power or something, and it's trying to fail safe, or what is that noise?
Not necessarily. I've heard that type of noise on there before. I'm not sure exactly what's causing that. Because on the linear birds you got a good pass band there, so it's not always in one place, but it could be a number of different things going on. It's really hard to tell with those satellites what's happening with that. So yeah.
Okay, and for the linear birds as well, what kind of footprint are you getting with those?
Um, well, Ken, the footprint for me is it's if the house is in the way, that's a bad thing. So if it's tracking, if a satellite is tracking to the east of me, I get the best passes going that way because it's above all the houses on the other side of the street, and once it gets past the edge of my house, or it's high enough in the air that I can see it past the edge of my house. Then I have a good track, and I can track that bird pretty much down to about maybe 8 degrees or so if it's going in that direction. But yeah, the other directions, not so much. So I'm limited some of the different directions.
Okay,
RS-44 Europe to England.
Europe to
New
New
England.
England, that's very possible
Yeah.
because the way the footprint is on that bird, and especially sitting in New England or up there in Maine or wherever you're at, that's a very real possibility.
That's
Now,
awesome.
I've worked, on the far west coast of in the Canadian provinces, no problem at all on the satellite if it happens to be heading from that direction
yeah,
and starting to make a pass. I've worked those folks up there
I know,
in
I
the
know, I
E6
know you
landing.
can get a
So
little further out on the linears, but I mean, even
yeah,
on an FM bird from West Virginia, I have Mexico and up into Canada. So
yeah. Hotel Papa 2 Victor X-ray. I always hear him on here all the time. He's definitely on there all the time. He's in my log several times, and there's another one down in Mexico City, I think. X-ray Echo 1 Yankee Delta Victor or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one from Mexico that I think I have, I believe.
yeah, yeah. Those guys are always on the birds, and I always hear them when the bird's coming from that direction. When it's coming from the east of me, I don't hear them so much, but um, from that side, when it's passing to the west of me, I'll definitely hear those guys for sure. Yeah.
All
So,
right,
and
well,
I've worked Brazil. I think I got Brazil in my log for
oh,
Panama,
nice.
Brazil. Yep. So down south,
Eric said he
Venezuela, I
used to.
think.
Eric said he used to reach the Midwest from Hawaii pretty reliably. So
Yeah, yeah. Again, it depends on where you're sitting at. And when the bad passes over. If you're on the more of the West Coast, yeah, working Hawaii is probably pretty easy
Do you
on
find it?
satellite.
Do you find it easier to make a long distance contact? Let's say from here in Georgia, let's just say hypothetically to Africa, just hypothetically. Would that contact be easier if the bird is coming from Africa to us or us to Africa?
I don't think the footprint extends that far.
No, just yeah,
Yeah,
just hypothetically. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think the passes. I usually have to work a pass that's probably about 10 degrees, at least if it's on that side.
Yeah.
Maybe 12. I can work a bird at 12 degrees, but the footprint, it's not reaching out there that far
No, 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 no.
to Africa for sure.
No, I was just thinking hypothetically. Is it
Yeah.
easier to get somebody when the bird is away from them and coming towards you, or the opposite direction, or does it just
Mm,
matter if they can still see it on the horizon and if you can see it on the horizon?
You have to be within the footprint to be
Yeah.
able to see it. As long as you're within that footprint, then yeah,
Okay.
you can see it. Yeah.
I got you.
Will said he's worked Kentucky from Alaska on the
Wow.
SO50
Wow. Yeah.
and
Oh, and I'm
Illinois,
124.
Poland on the 44. So good stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, good to see all you new satellite people in here watching the stream. That's really what I want to see is more satellite people watching the stream. And I'm going to say it one more time because I didn't see Will in here earlier. If you have streams that you'd like to see or something like that, or videos for the Satellite Saturday videos, send me a message and I'll gladly try to get some of those out for you guys. Other than that, we're coming up on the top of the hour. If you got any questions for Bob, put them in now because we're going to start wrapping this up because we got after chat afterwards. So, last call for questions. Here we go. I said last call. Here comes the pop-up.
Yeah. The last call will start a pile up and never ask if the frequency is in use more than 2 times because a net will start.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's the good thing about satellites. I have to call last call like 42 times in POTA because every time I do it, I get another pop-up. But in satellites,
it does it
I
for
just
you.
turn the radio off when I start losing the bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I shut mine off then too, or I'll turn it down. I'll put the headset. When I'm working a bird from the house, I got my Pro 7 headset on, and I'm using that. And then, as soon as it comes in, the satellite's done.
The old Pro 7, man. We call those the head crushers.
Yeah. Well, I like those headphones, man.
Yeah.
I'm used to that kind of phones.
There they are, right there. That set of head crushers. Yes, sir.
There you go. Yep. Well, I use this other set over here on my HF side of the house. It's just a really lightweight set.
Best headphones I've ever put on my head. Okay, so the weird thing is I can adjust them and get the really high pitched sounds in my deaf ear in CW, and it'll penetrate through whatever don't work there because I can hear a very high pitch in this ear, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's rare that I take them in the field and use them. But if I'm trying to work somebody here at the house and I'm not pulling them out, I'll put them on and I'll adjust that to get all the really high sounds in this ear and the lows in this ear, and I can pull them out. So really cool stuff. All right. So I don't think we got any more questions. I appreciate everybody for hanging out tonight. Bob, what you got coming up this week?
Well, okay. So the start of this weekend, I think we mentioned it earlier. We may have talked about it. Is the CQ Worldwide DX is up this weekend. So this weekend, our club station here at home, Mo KO for GBB, he's corralled everybody together to do an activity for the club. So we'll be using
Whiskey Romeo 4 Mike Golf.
Yeah. Well, we're actually using Whiskey 4 Romeo this time around. So that's the one we use for field day too. So we're going to shorten it up, and so I'll be working some of the bands. I'll be working on 40, 80, and 10 meters. I think of the bands I'm going to take and cover because we can't operate from our own stations as long as we're in the same area. So we got 3 or 4 stations that are going to operate and different bands, and we're going to have some fun with it. So that's what's happening this weekend. So no POTA activity this weekend for me. But
I wanted to do that. Mo asked me if I could, but I got some other plans this weekend. And he also said you didn't need a 630 meter station. So,
Well, I'm gonna try 160 meters. My folded dipole will do 160 meters, but I don't know. It's not very efficient.
Listen, I've done 102. I've got, I don't know, a couple hundred QSOs on 160 meters on an antenna that says it does 10 to 80.
Yeah.
So,
31-foot wire. Yeah.
It will work. All right, Dan, what you got coming up?
Not a whole lot, man. Thanks everybody for joining us this Hump Day episode 216. Bob, thank you so much for joining and spreading your knowledge about satellites. I learned a lot. Like I said, I'm just getting into it. And the more I read and the more I listen to people that are more knowledgeable than me, the better off I'm going to be in the long run. But thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to drop some links in the chat here to the Discord and to the Patreon, because we are going to be going over to the after chat, which is a Patreon benefit that James is going to let you know about.
That's right. It is a Patreon benefit, and we go there every Wednesday after the stream. And we have a lot of benefits with Patreon. And speaking of that, you satellite guys who are in here, if you're interested in helping supporting this channel, but you look at the benefits and you're like, oh, that's mostly for POTA people, and you got some benefits that you would like to see in Patreon, shoot me a message on that because I will gladly make some satellite stuff happen. We do have a satellite room only in our Discord as well. Dan just dropped the link to that. But if you want to join Patreon, you can try it for free for 7 days, guys, and shoot me and Dan a message, and we'll get you access to the after chat tonight once you sign up for it. Other than that, tomorrow video drop. I may take it easy and only do 4 or 5 parks tomorrow because I'm tired. But but I got a video drop at 4 o'clock Friday. I don't know. I'll be doing POTA, and I'm sure there'll be some shorts out. But Saturday is Satellite Saturday. I'll be doing a summit, and then afterwards a POTA threefer, and video drops every day, POTA every day. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks a lot, guys, for hanging out, and we'll see everybody on the after chat. 73, everybody.
See you guys.
All right, thanks, guys.